and welcome to the inaugural event in this exciting new series co-hosted by the Trans-Canada Trail and Lean in Canada, From Hesitation to Hiking. My name is Stacey Dakin. I use the pronouns she and elle, and I'm honored to serve as both the Chief Program Officer at the Trans-Canada Trail, but also the Board President of Lean in Canada. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to recognize that both the Trans-Canada Trail and Lean in Canada, who are national organizations, are situated on the traditional territory of the First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples from coast to coast to coast. Both organizations are committed to reconciliation and fostering meaningful relationships with Indigenous communities across Turtle Island. As mentioned a couple of minutes ago, I am joining you from Montreal. My home office is situated on the unceded lands of the Kanikihake, and it's my pleasure to be with you tonight. The Trans-Canada Trail, for those of you who don't know much about the trail, is the world's longest network of multi-use trails spanning over 29,000 kilometers and connecting communities with every province and territory. The Trans-Canada Trail is more than just a pathway. It really is a space for adventure, connection, and well-being. Lean in Canada is a thriving community of dedicated, empowered women we're helping them to achieve their ambitions. Through networking, mentorship, and learning opportunities, we foster leadership and support for women in advancing their careers. So tonight we're kicking off a new series. It's the first one, so we're hoping for your feedback at the end of the event. Don't forget to enter, respond to the survey and provide your feedback in the chat. Here we want to explore powerful connections between women, trails, and leadership, how time spent outdoors can help us navigate not just the wilderness, but our careers, our confidence, and our communities. Tonight, we'll hear from 4 inspiring women about their journey into the outdoors, the barriers they faced, and how hiking has shaped their perspectives on resilience, leadership, and work-life balance. Our goal here is to spark conversation and reflection, and hopefully inspire you to take your next step, whether on the trail or in your professional life. So we're going to get going here. At TCT, we really believe that what's good for the outside is good for the inside. And so our panelists today each have a unique journey with trails from personal growth to professional impact. Katie, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell us about yourself and your connection to the trail?
Yeah, sure. The quick and dirty is, I suppose I'm a 39-year-old veterinarian business owner from New Brunswick, and I have 4 young children. I had dabbled a bit in running before I had kids, but a lot of the consequences of having children made it quite difficult for me to return to running without a lot of discomfort and pain. Then a friend invited me to join a trail running intro group, and I thought, why don't we give this a try? I'm not really doing anything other than working and caring for children right now. And I once loved running, so I thought it was worth giving it a shot, and made a lot of jokes throughout the whole span of the intro group about how, people were out running hills on the weekends and I was taking care of a million children. It was just different types of chaos. And then a few months later, I found myself trying to fit in both of those things because I loved it so much. So I, started by doing this intro group in this, which was punctuated by an 8-kilometer race, found myself hooked. And by fall, someone had convinced me it was worth signing up for a 110-kilometer race the following year. So, which seemed totally insane and out of reach. And I was wrong, they were right. And with the help of community and my family and all of these wonderful people in my life, and finally making time for myself, I did that last July at Quebec Mega Trail, ran the 110 kilometers. So it was pretty crazy. I never would have believed that I could go from 3 kilometers at an intro group in April of one year to 110 in July the next year. But once I got out there and saw what it was like to connect with people and nature and myself, it was I had to find a way to keep doing it. So I think that's probably an adequate intro.
That's a great intro. And a couple of weeks ago, the Trans-Canada Trail team was out in Charlevoix. So we were near where you arrived for your ultra marathon. It was pretty cool. Hala, how about you?
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me to talk about my passion for hiking and walking. I'm joining you from my home office in Toronto, which is situated on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishambeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wombat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. That was a mouthful, but I wanted to honor the land that I'm situated on. Professionally, I'm an event producer. I own an international award-winning event firm. Personally, I have a beautiful connection with nature. I'm my happiest when I'm either in nature or close to nature. I got into hiking and walking, a lot of walking, because in my 30s, I did a lot of triathlons and I did an Ironman when I was 39. So there was a lot of swimming and running and biking. And honestly, once I checked that off my bucket list, I was done with the running. Running makes me so nauseous. And when I see people running, I am nauseous. So I looked for an alternative and I got into hiking, and I've never turned back. I just feel it's so accessible. I feel you can make it what you want it to be. You want it grueling and do steep climbs and rope climbs and cross streaming rivers, you can do that. You want to take a more mild approach, you can do that. You want to be near waterfalls, you want to, it's endless. And we're so lucky to have the Trans Canada Trail in our own backyard. I mean, that is such a beautiful way to explore Canada. And then my professional life also intersects with runs, hikes. As an event producer, I've organized a lot of walks, and one was a major hike for Oxfam Canada. It was called Trail Walker, Oxfam Trail Walker. It was teams of four hiking 100 kilometers in 48 hours. So I spent a lot of time on the trails, just doing the trail assessments, doing all the logistical planning. And I just fell in love with hiking from just even doing that in my work life. And I met some of the most amazing people, the people who take care of those trails, the people who maintain them. They taught me so much about how to properly walk a trail. It was just really informative and a really beautiful experience. And that's how I met Frida. So this is a nice segue into Frida.
Hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Frida Baldwin. I'm probably the oldest one on the panel. I grew up hiking with my family in Belgium, but once I arrived in Canada, it took me a while to find out green space to hike in. But after a few years, I did discover the Bruce Trail. And I think it was in the very first year that I joined the Dufferin Highland Bruce Trail Club that I volunteered to be their publicity manager. And did that for a while, and then actually became a hike leader as well, later on a certified hike leader. But we moved further away from the Bruce Trail, so I now live in Midland, and I'm a certified hike leader here for the Midland Club of the Ganraska Hiking Trail. Over the years, I've also been an activist for the Trans-Canada Trail, helping to lay out the route for the Trans-Canada Trail through Simcoe County. And right now, actually, it has come full circle for me because I live in an apartment building that's right above the Trans-Canada Trail, so I can see the fruits of my activism and my labor when I see people walk the Trans-Canada Trail or bike it or snowmobile it or whatever. I am also on the executive of Hike Ontario, and I handle their insurance portfolio, which is a lot of fun. And I'm the president of the Ganraska Hiking Trail Association. We look after a 500-kilometer trail from Collingwood area on Georgian Bay through Barrie, Orillia, Peterborough to Port Hope on Lake Ontario. And the entire trail right now has been devastated by the ice storm. So my head is over there in the devastation a lot. So It's going to be a huge task to bring it back into shape, but it'll be rewarding to see people use it again in a safe manner in the months to come. So
Yeah.
thanks.
Thanks, Frida. And we'll talk about community in a couple of minutes, but your community is there for you and will come to support you as you rebuild the trails. Thank you. Karen, we're going to pass it over to you. What is your connection to the trail? Tell us about yourself.
Hi, thanks, Stacey. Karen Simpson here. I am a former president, actually, of Lean In Toronto, so definitely a connection there. I also am an honorary Woods Explorer, which is also connected to the Trans-Canada Trail. The Trans-Canada Trail I've hiked many times, and the most recent long one would be walking around Prince Edward Island on the Island Walk, which was 730 kilometers, which encompasses a lot of the Trans-Canada Trail going through Prince Edward Island. So I love that. But my connection to the trail originally came from me being a very busy tech, 100% commission tech person in a high-paying, stressful job that had me. I was also raising 4 kids and with no nannies and trying to do everything by myself in many respects. And I got to the point where my doctor said, Karen, I'm going to have to start treating you like you've had a heart attack because this is where we're going. So in my late 40s, I had to say, okay, now what am I going to do? Like, I obviously need to address this. And I'm a very big goal person. So after I plunked down some money to go to a trainer, because that's the only way I would probably show up, after a month or so, I thought, I want to turn 50 and I want to do something grand. And I decided that grand thing would be climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, which I went off and I did. And it turned into being one of the best decisions that I've ever made. It totally changed my life. So through my 50s, I loved climbing mountains. I climbed the highest mountain in 10 countries. I just climbed the highest mountain in Indochina about a month ago at 62. So I just kind of proved to myself that, okay, I still got it. Now what can I do next? And all of that training for mountains involved me becoming a marathon runner, doing ultra marathons, trail marathons, becoming a cyclist, even doing a triathlon in there, just to keep in shape for what they call summit day, which is something you can't train for. So the mental training was as important as the cardio and the muscle training that I had to do. But I absolutely fell in love with it and ended up becoming a well-being and a mental need that I have still to this day. So I've started a company about 2 years ago called Hello Awesome Inc. And when I get stressed or tired or lose my focus, I go out with my dog to the trails, living in the country. So I am located in Peterborough on the Otonabee River, which is the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. And very happy to live here and proud to give them credit for these beautiful lands that I live on.
So 4 amazing women with 4 very different stories and very different connections to trails and their careers and their career paths. So wonderful to have all 4 of you here with us tonight. There are over 60 of us on the call tonight, which is really great. We had over 140 people register for the call. So hopefully you'll stay on and listen with us till the end. So next question. At TCT, we know that about 98% of trail users turn to trails for mental health and stress relief. And 89% of Canadians agree that trails enhance their quality of life. Similarly, a recent Gallup report revealed that about half of women working feel stressed compared to 40% of men. So often the dual pressures of work and having to balance everything else in life, we'll see that women are a little bit more stressed. So Karen, I'm going to go back to you. Could you share with us how you integrated trail activities into your life and how that helped you with your professional growth and well-being?
Okay, definitely a two-way street on that one. So the picture I've already started to paint, 4 kids, 100% commission tech sales job, in very much a man's toxic world environment that I worked in at that stage in my career, but being very successful. And I had to figure out, okay, I have no time. So it's easy to say that, but then you have to have no choice because health has to come before anything else. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to take care of this family and do this job that I really enjoyed doing, even though it was stressful. So I had to start signing up for clubs. I had to plunk money down for things. I had to make better use of my morning time. So getting up like earlier to go do some crazy. We were at that point, we were doing a corporal run Army boot camp to do some training. And I ended up falling in love with the groups, and it made me show up. So I could still do everything that I needed to do with the kids, but I was now showing up with excitement and bringing that excitement home after I had a great workout and I gained my focus and I dealt with my own personal well-being and finding myself again as well with the kids. So it really was a two-way street, and it actually, my career became more and more successful because I came better at managing my time. I prioritized what was really truly important to my life and my success. And I think that whole process over a number of years, like just kind of intertwined everything together, because we don't just have work and we can't, whatever time we're commuting, for example, comes off kid family time. And so is there a way that I can manage that better? And sure enough, there were ways that I could stay in Toronto and maybe do a group right after work before I went home and dealt with dinner and the kids' activities and all of that stuff. So very much an intertwining of all of it still to this day.
Yeah, you're just reminding me, when my kids were young, I had to go to an office every day and the commute killed me, right? And then at one point in 2017, I started working from home. There was no more morning daycare. There was no more afternoon daycare. They came home on the bus and I was able to fit in a walk. It just made more sense. So totally connecting. Katie, tell us how you manage 4 kids and your own business and ultra marathon running.
Yeah, it definitely was very intimidating, and sort of stepwise as I got more comfortable. I really relate a lot to what Karen says about how you just sort of end up making things work that you might not have made work until you had a reason to do it. So you're kind of like existing in a way that's not ideal, but there's no pressure coming from a certain direction to help you set it up better. But then all of a sudden there's this other thing that I really desired, and I'm like, okay, well, what can I change in order to make this fit in? Like, I'll go to bed earlier and get up earlier so I can get in a run before everybody else is up. Like, that's to that extent, which can't see in the thing here, but I'm pregnant now, so I'm not doing that. And now I'm like, wow, I can't believe I did that. But I think I'll get back to it. But it's true. It's like, once you have the pressure and you find the thing that you really love that gives you what you need, you will change things around to manage to accommodate it all. One point that I made when we were chatting about this before is like, I struggle a lot of the time with prioritizing myself when I know it's going to affect other people. So on one hand, I probably managed to find a way to fit at least like 50 to 75% of my training in that barely affected anyone else. Like, I would rearrange things and get up earlier, or find a way to make things work that no one would even notice things were different. But some of it did require asking for help and asking for other people to pick up slack here and there, which is something I've never really been very comfortable with. So it was good skill building. But the other thing we had talked about was, I do better when I have like a goal, like a thing that I'm having to work towards. So to this day, anyone who knows me can confirm, I don't care how I do in any run or race or anything. I care about doing my best, whatever that is, ideally finishing. But if I don't finish, it's not the end of the world. I go and do what I'm capable of. But if I know there's something I'm supposed to show up for and attempt, then I will make sure that I train. So if I take that end goal away, it's easy for me to sort of say, I'm supposed to run, but like, now it means that it's going to mean my husband can't do whatever. And now that that's come into the scene, I feel bad, but I'm like, but I got this race coming. So when I maybe historically would have like not even told him I was giving something up for myself so that he could do his own thing, now I might speak up and say, I really got to get this run in. Like, could you do your thing an hour or two later? And I wouldn't have done that before. So it really like taught me to sort of like speak up for myself and get the things that I needed, because I agree with Karen too, that when I was training well and being ready for these races, I was a better mom, I was a better partner, I was a better business owner. Like, I was better at everything else because I was in a better headspace. And I would even use my runs as time to work out problems like with work. And then I would almost feel like less, like it's another like trick of the mind to make me feel less bad about it. I'd be like, today's going to be a solo run because I have this problem. And I know if I think about it when I'm running, I'll be able to figure it out better. So I really like found a way, like she says, to intertwine it, to work it into my life so that it was a part of everything instead of just like this thing I felt like I was like sneaking off to do on the side. It was like a part of my life. And everyone came to expect it and be here for it because they also saw the benefits. I was happier and, you know, more ready to handle everything else that came at me in life.
Yeah, yeah. I love the balance that it brought you, your mental health and being able to navigate what your priorities are. But I love that you were able to speak up to your husband and say, hey, my priorities, your priorities, our priorities. It's not just about what you want, what we want.
I'm the one that just hates to be like, what about me? And
Yeah.
like, and I would have hidden it from him, you know, like I would have told him I was skipping something. And,
Yeah.
but then once I had these goals, he knows how I am with goals. Then, but it was important also just to communicate in general to like make sure he knew. And I would say, okay, I need to fit in a 5-hour run this weekend. When is the best time? Because I didn't care when, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about communicating and advocating when necessary.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Frida, you were giggling. Did you relate to that?
Yeah, kind of. I'm fortunate enough that I'm retired and that I can go out and hike when I feel like it, when the weather permits, and I usually go with somebody. So, and for 1 hour as a minimum. But I've also had a career that involved commuting to Toronto from 80 kilometers away, one way. So it was a struggle to find enough time for myself and to be able to find an opportunity to go into green space. We actually moved to Cookstown, which is north of Toronto. It's in a rural area, but the area was very agricultural intensive. So there was nowhere to really walk. I had to actually drive a half hour to the nearest conservation area or the nearest trail. So it wasn't until about 1990s, early 1990s, that some of the rail lines in Simcoe County were being abandoned, and there was talk about preserving them for walking trails and biking trails and so on. And then the notion of the Trans-Canada Trail came about. So we became activists to make sure that we had those trails close to our homes so that we had places to walk and bike. But as I was working still and my children were very young, my strategy to find time for myself was to commit to leading hikes. I committed to leading a hike once a month for the Dufferin Highland Bruce Trail Club. And that was my time, only once a month, unfortunately. But anyway, that was the day that nobody could ask me to drive the boys to hockey or to friends' parties, or that was mommy's day. And that's when I hiked. And I think that worked really well for myself. And I still walk. Right now, I'm at my 66th hike for the year. So that's an average of 22 in a month. But I appreciate that if you have a full-time career, that if you get out once a week for a hike, that is already a good achievement. Thank you.
Yeah, you were saying before, Frida, before we started, that a hike for you is about 1 hour on the trail, or about
Minimum,
four to 5 kilometers. So, and you'll have to tell us more about this challenge that you have to count your hikes in a year. I know that you and Karen, Karen, you just put it in the chat, 66 hikes so far this year. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, you have 66. Karen, you were 39, I think. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, 39.
Yeah, 39 till the ice storm. Yep.
Great.
For the last 2 years, I was able to get to 250 in the years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, but I realize that's not for everybody. But
No.
some are badge hounds, as they call themselves. They want a badge for that. So the
Yeah.
Ganaraska Hiking Trail has badges of 50, 100, and 250 hikes in a year. So
Yeah.
some people use that as a challenge to to get out and set themselves some goals for the year.
Yeah, and I think like Katie and Karen said it before, goals are so, so important in order to keep you motivated and going. Hala, I'd love to hear from you and how career and wellness, how that all fits for you in the trail.
For me, I just feel that the hiking and the walking has been literally life-changing for me in terms of my work-life balance because I walk every single day. I walk several times a day because I have 3 dogs, but I make a point that every day after work, I do a 75-minute walk. I'm in the city, so I don't have the advantage of being on a trail, but I'll go walk the Martin Goodman Trail or go to the Tommy Thompson Park, or go down to the beaches. Those are all close to where I am. And it's me time. It's actually my time. And it's my time to just pause, reflect, just have some alone time to think. And my job is extremely stressful, and there's always challenges. Like there's creative challenges, there's problem solving challenges. It's exhausting. So, at the end of the day, whether, I might be angry, I might be stressed, I might, maybe I'm happy, I don't know. But going on that walk just lets everything go. And honestly, I've had some of my most creative, genius ideas that come to me in the middle of my walk. I don't know if I'm just thinking about it all in the background, but the moment I go on the walk, all of a sudden a creative idea will come to me, or I'll figure out how to, like, a problem that's been needling me will just be solved when I'm on the walk. It's just really mind-boggling to me sometimes when I think about it, but it works. It really genuinely works. My favorite time to go out and walk is in a blizzard. And if you see pictures of me, head to toe, scarf, everything, head to toe, sleeping bag, coat, I'm out there, and it's the most peaceful, the most beautiful. It's my favorite time to go out. Nobody's around. It's like you're alone, and it's like you're in a winter wonderland. It's absolutely amazing. So I feel that everyone can benefit from just going on, even if it's like 30 minutes, just to clear your mind, get up 3 times a day just to get your body moving. It really makes you more focused when you get back to your desk. But that alone time really has made a difference for me from a work-life balance perspective.
Yeah, I used to listen to podcasts on my walks. I used to make it like, this is a learning opportunity. I can do this. And then I realized it was never a downtime. I was always either working or learning, improving. And then I changed to audiobooks, which is, nonsense and romance and, fun. So I'm able to really decharge on my walk. So yeah,
And,
I get what you're saying.
and you'd be surprised who you find and meet on the walk.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I'll be like on the walk and someone will just start chatting to me, and just I've gotten some volunteers for my events from just walking along the walk, and you chat with them and all of a sudden they're going to volunteer for your event. I mean, it's really it's amazing. I love it.
It's a great segue to the next question, and I'm going to tap you again, Hala. How has trails and walking helped you build community and left you maybe feeling empowered or inspired?
Well, for me, I do a lot. I love to explore and I love to travel. And more often than not, when I travel, I incorporate hiking into my travel plans. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I might be going on, a kayak trip in the Arctic for 10 days. I'll still incorporate some hiking in there. And I don't know if a lot of you are familiar or know about the All Trails app, but that I love that app so much. I get on the app, whether I'm in Hawaii, whether I'm in Ecuador, I get on the All Trails map. I can find a hike anywhere that's close to me. You can filter it. You can say, I want to go near a waterfall. It needs to be dog friendly. I want it to be kid friendly, whatever it is. I want it to be challenging. I want it to be mild. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can find a trail, and it's awesome. And you meet so many people when you're out there, along the trails. Even on All Trails, there's like a community, where a lot of outdoor enthusiasts they post their experiences, their photos, their reviews. You can talk to them. And so it's just a collaborative little network on the All Trails app. So that's my community, is when I do my traveling and I meet people along the trails that I'm on. That's kind of how I build my community. Because when I'm at home, it's my time. That's my time. That hour every day is my
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, well, and organizing walks and hikes is community as well. I have some friends on the line tonight. We're called the Jalapenos, the six of us. We did a walk on the Camino back in December, and like that was the best time. We had the best time. So
Oh yeah.
planning it, looking for resources, figuring it out was like the best sort of community building.
One of the big walks I just did from a work perspective is something called Light the Night.
Mm.
The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada. It's across Canada. It's in 6 cities. And it's one of the most beautiful walks out there. It's just so emotional. It's at night. You all walk with lanterns. It's so beautiful. So where my life intersects with, those walks, it's just really fun to make them really engaging, and look at ways to make them really tell a story for the organization. So yeah, that's true. That's community as well.
Yeah, for sure. Karen, tell us about your trips and your adventures in community building on the trails.
Well, there isn't a trip that doesn't have some big challenge in
I
it, honestly,
know.
for me. Like, that's what travel's all become all about. And instead of all-inclusive vacations, it's like every time my husband or whoever says, "Where are you going next?" I'm like, "Oh, Vietnam. What's the highest mountain in Vietnam?" And that's kind of how it all starts. But the whole community thing has kind of kept me intact, kept me training, kept me moving forward, kept my goals bigger. Like even listening to everybody tonight, I'm like, wow, I'm so inspired and I want to think bigger. So I tracked 100 hikes for the first time last year. And then Frida did like 260 last year. And I'm like, oh my God, I got so much work to do. How am I going to fit all of that in? So there's always like that big goal there. But so the community piece honestly really started with this whole Kilimanjaro goal. So when I put that goal out there, I put it on Facebook and I'm like, I had no idea what altitude was. I'd never climbed a mountain before. I'm like, even very positive people in my family were saying, you're nuts, you can't do that. And I'm like, you tell me I can't do something, that's a big motivator for me, actually. So about 5 or 6 weeks before we went off to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, I'm like, it's kind of a wasted opportunity. My dad had passed away from Alzheimer's. I'm like, we should be raising money. These big challenges, like people raise money. But it was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get to the top. I was like, quite, I don't know. Can we really raise much money? We don't have much time left. You don't want to put yourself out there to that extent when now people are really following you. But I decided, what the heck, let's go for it. So there was actually even a Toronto Star article about our fundraising for it, and we ended up raising, I think, about $7,000 in that short amount of time before we left. So then that just got us more excited and got us to the top and kept us motivated. And when I came back and I realized this wasn't going to be a one-hit wonder, I actually really loved it, like really loved it. So how do I train for more? So apparently you have to take up something that you really don't like to do. And for me, that was running. The only way I was going to run anywhere ever was if a group made me run someplace or a group leader made me run. So the groups came into it. Then I became an ambassador for a bunch of marathons and I started to wear costumes running marathons. And so I did 5 marathons in 2 years. And then I did an ultra marathon at 53, ran 53 kilometers. So it was all about community. And my Facebook page, Karen Get Her Done, is a community page. So it just like I've raised over $30,000 through marathons and other activities we've done, the Ride to Conquer Cancer, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro and a couple of other mountains that I've raised money on. So it becomes a part of you and it's very motivating. So you always, when you give, you tend to get more back than you ever imagined. So put yourself out there. Don't be afraid of it because there's no failure in it. You're going to go do it, which is better than what you might have done a year ago, right? There's no failure in trying.
No, that's a good lesson. There's no failure in trying, and that's important. Katie, you kind of mentioned that before, right? Like you go out, you do your best, and if you don't finish, it doesn't really matter. The point is that you showed up. So tell us about your community, Katie.
Yeah, the community is definitely a big focus of the trail runners in our area, and I think that that's the theme in many places, not just here. Um, but that became apparent very quickly that the people that you're getting around doing this, like so quickly end up becoming your biggest allies, your biggest cheerleaders, your biggest supporters. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm pregnant now, very pregnant actually. And it was a bit of a surprise. And it actually was like getting back to myself, as I mentioned earlier, was a big thing after having these 4 kids. And it took me a long time to actually find a way to focus on myself. And so my youngest, when I joined the intro group, was 2. He's now 3.5. And you know, when I found out I was pregnant, obviously I love having babies. I have many, but I was quite blindsided and was sort of like, was this just like a stopover where I'm gonna like look after myself for a little period of time and then I'm gonna be right back in like all there is child rearing and business, like, and never return to the trails? Am I just gonna like sort of fade away from everything? Like, and it was a real fear. I mean, I felt like I was being dramatic in my mind a little bit, but I was legitimately worried about it. But like, as much as I really, really missed running throughout, I ran about halfway through the pregnancy and then my body started doing all the things that makes me unable to run. Um, so I did keep going for about half of my pregnancy, did a couple of races in the first trimester and into the beginning of the second trimester. And then I figured like this is when I say goodbye to everybody, but it just hasn't been like that. I've felt very involved. I went and ran an aid station with a bunch of my trail running people back in November, I think it was, and had an absolute blast and have gone to, every little mini celebration that we've had. We have a screening of a film coming up this weekend that I'm going to, and I'm in all the group chats for all the runs, and I still feel like they're all just right there, and like that, whether I run again or not barely even seems to matter, although I can't wait to do it again. But it's like the community isn't like there for you as long as you're doing well or as long as you're running and being impressive. It's like they're just, once they're there, they're there. Like I feel like they'll be around forever no matter what happens. So I'm just really grateful for that. I feel like I found my people, and I won't bore you with all the reflections I've gone through since joining this community of how I'm like, oh yeah, like all signs were leading to end up around these people doing this. And I really truly feel like that. And like it would be very challenging for that to be gone now, no matter what happens in my life. I will briefly mention I'm always like looking for these like little clues, even though like I'm expressing a lack of worry now, but I still looked for these like little clues that what I'm saying is true in like people who have been gone for other reasons. Some of them it's been for babies, some of them it's been for injuries, some of them it's just been for like hard times during life that they just couldn't find the time. And even in my short period of time, I've seen people leave and come back, and it's like they never left. Like everyone welcomes them with open arms. They're like communicating the whole time they're gone. Sometimes they're not even, but then they show up and it's like, hey, you're back. And it's like nothing's happened. And then also I look at people who barely even started this until they were 10 years older than me and are still loving it and thriving and making new goals. And I'm like, calm down. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Reassurance directly and also peripherally by just watching all the inspiring people in the community who are doing amazing things.
Well, I think what you're saying is striking a chord with folks on the line tonight. There's lots of comments coming up. I'm not able to read them all, but I see lots of, are you in the Eastern Townships? Are you here? There's lots of people who are looking for community and connection. And so it's great to hear your story. Frida, I'm going to pass it to you. I know you're going to be leaning on your community as you rebuild trails in the coming weeks and months.
Mhm. Yeah, but I wanted to kind of more talk about in the past how I have linked with the community, and I guess it started with the Trans Canada Trail, where there was initial talk about routing it through Simcoe County. So as a volunteer and activist, um, I got involved with an organization that was promoting the Trans Canada Trail in Simcoe County, which is Barrie and area. And as part of my role as chair of that organization, I had to travel around the county and make deputations to the different municipalities to convince them that acquiring these abandoned rail lines was a good thing for the future, and that they had to buy them and preserve them, and then they could be used for hiking, biking trails, and so on. And so it was a great way of getting to know my own community by traveling from one municipality to the other, but also from a personal growth point of view. I think it was really good because I needed to speak up, and my public speaking skills, I guess, improved a lot over the years. I wasn't a public speaker at first at all, but the passion for the Trans Canada Trail helped me get over that and speak in front of audiences. So the other thing that struck me is that in our area we had an awful lot, well, a lot of forests, and forests to me seemed to be very intimidating for people. They didn't go in the forest to hike because they didn't know where they were going to end up, if they would find their car back, if they would find their way back to their house or whatever. So the organization I was with started building, planning for loop trails in the county forests. So these loop trails were for families, mostly young families, so they could do 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, 5 kilometers, and we blazed the route in the forests, and it would bring them back to their car. So as long as they followed these blazes, they got back, and the forest was not so intimidating anymore. So that was a really great, I think, initiative. And some of these trails are still out there and are still being used. The other thing I wanted to say is that so the way these trails were marked was with paint blazes on the trees. So it wasn't a sophisticated system. It was just green blazes on trees, and if you had to make a turn, there was an arrow. We called it trailblazers for dummies, but it seemed to work. On the Ganaraska hiking trail, though, and similarly on the Bruce Trail, they have a more complicated way of marking where the route of these long distance hiking trails are. They're pretty consistent in all of North America. They're white blazes, one blaze if you go straight ahead, and then a turn blaze is two blazes. One is higher than the other and offset, and the one that is offset shows you in which direction the trail is going to go. So as a volunteer with the Ganaraska Hiking Trail Association, we go out to clear the trail and then blaze it with paint. And I find it extremely rewarding to clean up a trail. I guess I'll have lots of opportunity in the time coming to clean up a trail. And as you walk back to your car, you see what you have achieved and how nice the trail is looking. There's no more debris on it, and it is easy to walk on and to follow the trail. So that inspires a community then to go out if the trail is well blazed, to go and try it out. And that's what a lot of the hiking clubs do. They don't only hike their own trails, but they also um, hike trails in other areas or abroad. So it encourages people. These blazes, the navigation tools, help people find their way
Yeah,
the trails.
I think, Frida, the connection to the volunteering, that's a whole different type of community that women and people in general are looking for these days. Isolation is an issue, loneliness is an issue. Getting on the trail for a walk by yourself because you got to clear your head is one thing. That's great for your mental health, but then building connection, and you can do that through a hiking club, a walking club, a running club, but you can also do that through volunteering and actually taking care of the trails that you you spend most of your time on when you're out walking. Frida, as we aim to close out this panel, and it's been a great conversation, do you have any advice or some final thoughts to share with everybody on the line?
Yeah, I would encourage people to go and try it out if you haven't hiked yet. There are organizations all through Ontario and all across Canada, I would assume, that maintain trails, but they also organize activities that could range from just a simple walk or a nature walk to a more challenging hike or multi-day hike. But mostly these outings are described very well in terms of how easy or how difficult the hike is, how far the hike is, how challenging, and so on. But you also have to look at other things like, what is the terrain like? What's the weather like? How should you dress for it? And Hike Ontario actually has a safe hiker course, which kind of covers all of these things. But to start, maybe just contact one of your local hiking clubs, ask if you could come on a hike. There's usually a mentor that will assist you on your first day in terms of what you should wear and so on, and give it a try. So, and then it is just one footstep in front of the other. And you walk, anybody can pretty well do it, right? The same with snowshoeing. It's easy. It's very rewarding. It's beautiful. You're out there in pristine snow, and it's just one step in front of the other. Give it a try.
Yeah, I love that. One step in front of the other. That's basic, but yet that's all you really need to think about. Hala, how about you? Some final thoughts?
Well, I think Frida kind of stole my thunder there. There's an old Chinese proverb, and it's a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And that to me is really exactly what everybody should do. Just take that first step. And it can start off by just walking. Just, I try to walk everywhere, to the grocery store. I try to, like, when Karen was saying and Katie was saying a purpose, I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk to the grocery store to get my eggs, and then I get my steps in, try to like make a purpose and walk everywhere I go. And that's a good start too, before you get out on the trails.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes in the suburbs. I live in the suburbs and my car is like the thing that I need in order to go to the grocery store. So you have to think, okay, I could walk to the grocery store. It's really not that far. If you do a GPS map, it's probably a 15-minute walk, but you don't think about it. You just get in your car, right? So
Well,
I
I
love
walk
them.
to the Eaton Center. It takes me 50 minutes. I'll walk there, I'll go to the Eaton Center, and I'll walk back 50 minutes. And there you go.
Yeah. So you can build it into
walk
a
just like that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Katie, what's some words of wisdom you'd like to leave for the audience tonight?
Definitely, a lot of people feel, I know, like when I joined the intro group, and since then, I've been trying to encourage other people to join it when it comes around. And one of the things people always say to me is like, well, I got to get out for a few runs before, so that when I get there, I already like have a base. It's like the old base tan. They need like some base cardio. And I'm like, neither are ever necessary. It's an intro group for a reason. Just go and show up. And the thing is the more people that just do that, the more likely there's going to be a wide range of abilities. And like our group, even not just our intro group, our regular group has a caboose for a reason. Yeah. You're never going to be the last person. There's always somebody there. It's sort of like one of around here. I think it's also common other places. One of our mottos is like no one left behind. So there's always a person that's designated as the last person. So you're not going to be the last person. You're not going to be the slowest person. It is not a burden. Like, we want you there. We want more people there. Please come. So just like going, whether you're afraid. I was somebody who, back when I, like I said, dabbled in running, I never wanted to run with anyone else because I was too afraid of the pacing anxiety. Am I going to be too slow? Am I like, is this going to be awkward? Are we going to feel like we got to talk the whole time? And now it became like a rarity to go by myself. I always wanted company, and it didn't matter the skill level of the company. It's more like I'm getting out at all, and that's great. And like I said, sometimes I would want a quiet one so I could think through something or whatever. But I can't believe what a convert I became for loving company. And then the other thing I really like to tell women is to not worry about peeing yourself, because everyone's peeing themselves. And you're not going to be like the one person that is peeing themselves. So
I love that.
Wear some black pants. Just get over it.
Very true, right? The dribble dribble. It's a real thing.
Yeah, but kids are not, like, whatever your age is. If you're not peeing yourself when you're running, I commend you. But 90% of the women out there are. So don't worry that that's going to set you apart.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that's a great takeaway. Don't worry about the bathroom or the dribble.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Katie. Karen, how about you?
Yeah, don't ever leave home without a doggy bag, not for your dog, but for yourself, with a little bit of tissue in your pocket. Honestly, I don't. That comes everywhere. But you know what? The hardest thing is getting started. And I mean, this panel is obviously amazing and motivated and accomplished a lot of things, but we all have days where we're like not motivated. So how do you get yourself out there? Like really sign up for a group. I moved from Toronto where I had run every trail and walked every trail and trained every trail to Peterborough during the pandemic. And I was like doing the same country road like a couple times a day. And I'm like, I don't know any of the trails, but I was a little bit afraid of going out on the trails. What I may get lost, or what animals are out there, and what humans are out there. And I went on Meetup. I went on Facebook. I found the Ganaraskis Trail Association. There's so many opportunities for you to get out there and try a hike. And don't worry about your fitness, because every trail person that I've ever met is a lovely person. And I actually like to walk at the back a lot of the times. My husband, that's his preferred location, is at the back. So there's always a sweep, they call it, at the back. And you can run or walk or whatever pace you want to do in any of these groups. So it's more about community, connecting, having a chance to talk, which means people cannot go that fast if they're doing it. So really go find yourself a group, do a couple of trails. Once you get to know those trails, then you'll be fine going out and doing it by yourself.
Great advice. There's definitely tons of groups. Facebook, as you said, they're all over the place. You just have to reach out and ask. So I'm going to put us on to the full gallery view. So everybody's up on screen. It's time to turn it over to all of you. Do you have any questions, any comments or questions? You could put them in the chat, and feel free to unmute and you can ask any of our panelists.
I'll get the ball rolling, Stacey. This is a question for Frida. We didn't talk a ton about your volunteer experience, but you have a ton of it. And I know that trail volunteers, a big portion of them are men. So what would you say to young women who are wanting to get involved with their local trail group?
To think about that. I'm running a blank. I mean, you have to first know who to contact, obviously. So if you're looking for a trail group, a hiking group in your area is probably a good start, and ask them if they have any volunteer opportunities to help with. Is that what you were looking for in terms of
Yeah,
response?
maybe a little less about the direction of how to do it, but what is the personal value to you? Is it, what can people get out of volunteering with their local trail group?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I find it very rewarding to go and see what you've achieved by going out for 2 hours on a day with a group of other people, and take responsibility for a section of trail that you can beautify by cleaning up any debris that has fallen on the trail, or repainting the blazes so they look nice and fresh, those kind of things. But there are other volunteering positions that you can volunteer for with the organization, for instance, in the administration of the hiking organizations, or volunteer on a local board in your community. I'm on 2 active transportation committees in my area here, where you get to contribute to trying to find ways of people to be more active by walking and biking to work, school, and play, and by having better signage for people or routes that they can follow that are safe, things like that. So there are a lot of opportunities related to trails and hiking that you can apply for.
Great, thanks, Frida. There's a couple of questions in the chat that I saw. One was about Earth Day. So if anybody knows about Earth Day activities, if you can share them in the chat, there was one question there. Another one was around finding hiking groups. So we mentioned before, Karen, you mentioned there's Facebook groups, Meetup. If you go into the tctrail.ca, you can find our map. And when you go on the map of where the Trans-Canada Trail is across Canada, if you scroll over the different locations, it'll tell you the name of the trail group in that area. So you can reach out to them directly to volunteer, or even just to learn more about the trails in that area. And the map itself will give you a good overview of where the Trans-Canada Trail goes across Canada. Any other questions, or anybody else on the panel want to answer?
I just wanted to add that Hike Ontario can also be used as a resource in terms of finding hiking organizations in your area in Ontario, of course. And there are provincial organizations in the other provinces as well.
Great. Lila, one of my favorite Lean in Canada alumni. Good to see you.
Hi there. Does geocaching still exist? The geocaching activity still exist? I used to do it years ago, and as I'm listening to everyone, I'm like, I loved how much fun or how much I felt like a child just exploring the outdoors. Karen, I saw you shaking your head. Does geocaching still exist, and what apps, or I don't even know what to ask, but how do I pair geocaching with a trail that I'm hiking?
It's kind of, I haven't done it for a number of pre-pandemic, so keep that in mind. And there's several geocaching apps that you can download on your phone and then do it by area. So when I was traveling, when I went to Vancouver as an example, or Kelowna, we did geocaching there and got us up the top of Knox Mountain. I've noticed there's one or two on my road that I'm going to try finding at one point, but it doesn't seem to be as popular as it used to be. But I think the hiccup for everything was the pandemic. So there could still be people out doing it. I just haven't been on it very much.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to dig in there a little bit more, Karen, just about the apps that you use. I think it was you who mentioned before, if it's not on Strava or something, it doesn't count. Was that you? Did I see that pop up at you? So what do you think about tracking?
Katie can very much, maybe probably Hala too, can very much relate to this. It's a runner's thing. Like, I mean, if I finish a hike and my thing doesn't say at least 5K or 7, whatever my goal is for that day, I will actually walk circles around my car until my tracker says that. So it's a runner thing, like where you want to run a certain pace and you're running kind of not watching your step sometimes. But that's just kind of transitioned into my hiking experience, and all the tracking. And now I'm counting them. So now I really have to track it because I want to be able to go back and see what mileage I did and how many hikes I did, and I'm posting them online. So yeah, so Strava, All Trails, I saw Gaia came up on Facebook. There's so many of them. I mean, probably even your phone will just do it for you as well. I have a Fitbit as well. So some people are Garmin, they're wearing all these different trackers, and then they're comparing what they all say. Oh, this says 5K. I mean, I know after our hiking groups with the Ganaraskis, they're like, what does yours say? And we all have the same tracker, but it says Strava will say different distances. So
that's it. Yeah. I remember when we were on the Camino Trail, that was the same. So how much time is on your watch? How many meters do we have left? And Louise.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for the session. I'm not sure if this is the right question or not, but I just do some regular hiking, some kind of the along the trails, but I'm going to be doing some backpack hiking, carrying, suitcase, tent and things like that. So for Karen or anybody else wondering whether or not you've done that kind of hiking and how much of a difference it is carrying a load versus going just free and easy. Massive.
Did you want to answer, Karen? Oh, you're on mute.
If I may just make a comment, is that in all my years of hiking, which is probably 40 years, I have never backpacked. So it's not an easy thing to do. If you are doing it, there are stores that will be very helpful to you to plan for the right equipment. Also, if you have a heavy pack, a set of poles is also taking off the load of your knees and your hips so that it's easier to carry that backpack, and it helps with balance as well. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you.
My backpacking experiences have been climbing mountains and camping along the way as we're climbing a mountain. So like a 50-pound backpack climbing a mountain, you're not going to do that just random. We would train with increasing amount of weight in our backpack for quite a few months before we went out there. But recently I just climbed a mountain. I didn't even think to do I did a lot of winter training, and it was a great winter for it. Snowshoeing and everything. I absolutely loved it this winter. But I didn't even think to put my backpack on for the training. So when we get to Vietnam, I'm like, now I've got a 20-pound backpack and I'm climbing a mountain. I kind of forgot that important piece. But I think I got the benefit of the winter training was great because now I was fair weather climbing in another place. And I find when I put my backpack on, like the weight doesn't matter when it's 20 pounds anymore. I'm so used to having that backpack on me for long adventures that you just get used to it, and getting the right backpack's important. There's a big difference. If you're getting a certain backpack from a mountain equipment store versus just a random backpack, the comfort level will be extremely different.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I just want to add, I agree. I tried a backpack that was recommended. Everybody loved it. And the straps cut right at my shoulder. And when
Okay.
I was walking without a t-shirt on, all it did was cut me raw. And that's what I
Oh,
had for my whole vacation. So you really have to test your equipment before you go out and make sure that it fits. It fits you on your hips, it fits you, on your shoulders, and then it's the right backpack for you. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
So I know we're over time, everybody. We have one last question I'd like to get to before we wrap up, and it was a question in the chat, and I forget who asked it, but it was around how do we make trails more inclusive? How do we get more women on trails? And is this already starting to happen? I feel that this conversation is putting a highlight on the fact that it's already starting to happen. Part of planning for this event, I received several calls and emails asking, hey, is there a pre-event hike or a post-event hike for those who are on the West Coast? We didn't have the bandwidth to organize it, but there's an organic groundswell and interest of having a small group of women come together and hike before or after an event. So I don't know, panelists, Hala, Karen, Katie, Frida, any thoughts?
I will say that's been a really awesome feature of the trail running community around here. There's a main running group, but there's actually also a women only group. So on used to be Tuesdays was women's and Wednesday was co-ed, whatever. And I think initially the regular group was was male heavy because women are particularly intimidated to go join in with a bunch of men. So there'd be some people who don't care and whatever. So there'd be a couple women and a bunch of men. But then another awesome trail runner in our community started the women's group. So that made a more inclusive environment for women, and not just cisgender women. There's trans women and people of color and a very diverse range of women. And then slowly that resulted in a lot of these women gaining confidence in the women's group and going to both. So they're going to the women's group and the co-ed group. And the male leader of the general group is also an absolutely massive advocate for women getting into the sport, and is always giving stats on how many, what percentage of people that signed up are women, and what percentage of his races are women, and what percentage of the doing the higher distances are women. So he's just a huge cheerleader for women. So it's obviously great to have women empowering women, but it's nice when you've got feminist men in there trying to empower the women as well. So just encouraging people to speak up about it, creating separate groups where it can be a stepping stone, or maybe the women only ever want to run with women, and that's okay too. But just creating more spaces like that, I think, helps, and having people advocating and cheering for women, even when they're not women too, I think does add a whole element of you know, a nod towards females getting out there and whatnot. So that's been really inspiring in our community. I assume it's happening other places too, but that was a very pleasant surprise getting involved around here.
No, that's great. That's great. And I think that as we're seeing a lot of people starting to drop off, that's probably the best place to end our call is just, you know, acknowledging that there, you know, it's not just about women supporting women. There's also allies out there. And you mentioned your husband before. He's your number one ally. Make sure that your support system around you is setting you up for success, which is really cool. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. So if you're interested in the Trans-Canada Trail, head to tctrail.ca. Lean in Canada is leanincanada.com. Both organizations are there to help you set up for success. So whether it's your career and you're looking to get engaged there, or if you want to get more on the trail, TCT Trail has tons of tips and tricks as well. There's a whole section on, you know, what you can pack and what you need to think about when you're going out on the trail. So we look forward to hearing from you and to seeing you next time. Thank you to Katie and to Hala and Frida and Karen. This was wonderful. And to the folks who helped me behind the scenes, thank you as well. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a great night. Happy trails.